We are gathered here on a very holy day, a sacred day. The day made sacred originally by the Mayan people who were able to foresee much of the future of the end of this world age, at the beginning of the next. But it's not only the Mayans, but all the peoples of the world, in the ancient world in particular, whose calendars have prophesied that we would come to this period. In India, it's the end of Kali Yuga and the beginning of the next Satyuga. And in that sense, it is the most auspicious time in the calendar of the ages, recognized as such in Christianity as the time of the apocalypse. And apocalypse, as you know, means unconcealment, the time of the revelation of the truth of God and the presence of God, mythologized as the return, the second coming of Christ, mythologized by the Islamic people as the coming of the 12th Imam by the Shiites, and the coming of the time of Allah, and by every other people understood as the end of the age. The Buddhists know it as the time of the coming of Maitreya, the final Buddha of the age. And so we are celebrating a universal moment. And the actual day of the calendar is not relevant except as a symbolic pointer to a period of time, a purgatorial period, in which transformation is urgent, imperative, in order to help usher in this new age successfully. It is our graduation. It is our souls that are on trial. It is our purification that is at stake, our destiny, the destiny of our planet, but the destiny, more importantly, of our own souls in relation to God. So we should take this day with utmost seriousness. Not so much as some countdown to some final destruction, but as a moment in which we can ascend, in which the energy field is open for the realization of our true nature, in which there is an alignment of all the levels of reality to bring about the most auspicious result of the transformation of our exhausted world into a renewed world, from a world of war and conflict and poverty and aggression and disease and pathology, suicide, and all of the other negativities we all know so well, to an age of peace and prosperity and harmony and love, of true God consciousness, an age in which the divine potential of our being is realized. All that had been forgotten and repressed in our hearts now wants to come to the surface again, to free us from the bondage of the ego. And this is a day in which we can devote ourselves to making that a reality, not just a dream, not a hope, not wishful thinking, but to make it real through our own inner process that will not tolerate any inner resistance to our achievement of our own liberation. And we can approach this day, and we should approach it on 3 different levels. It has significance at the ego level. It has different significance at the soul level, and a 3rd level of significance for the Atman, for the spirit, for God consciousness. At the ego level, people tend to make 4 different errors in relationship to this time period. One are those who are completely cynical and say there's no end coming, it's business as usual, this is the way it is, there have always been wars, there have always been troubles, but we muddle through, don't worry about it, it's not going to affect us in the long run, it's hype, and just keep on with your tunnel vision and stay in denial. But those who are taking that approach are finding that their denial is cracking by virtue of the radical nature of the changes that are happening that can no longer be denied. From climate change to genocidal warfare that's spreading across the globe, to diseases that we have no drugs to treat, to a lack of water and food supply, of drought and weather conditions that are unprecedented, etc., etc., etc. And this leads to the second error of those who see only the end, who see only the death of a world, the collapse of the global financial situation, oncoming wars, and unredeemable, sinful humanity without hope, and who are living in despair and devastation because of that error in judgment. And we must not fall into that trap of nihilism. This is not the end of the world. This is the opportunity for bringing a new world into existence. But it's an opportunity that depends on us. And so the third error that is made is by those who believe there doesn't have to be an end to the world. The new world can come without disaster, without apocalypse, without end. Let's just pretend it's already begun and celebrate it and ignore the disasters that are occurring all around us. Not to mention our own egoic suffering that we can avoid for only so long. And so no, there is an end. The new world is not yet here, except in the hearts of those for whom that has become real. And we can become those if we truly transform. But if not, we will have to face the karma of our trying to airbrush reality and pretend that we don't have to do the purification of our souls, and that we can get away with chanting and hand-holding and praying and rituals and gatherings in which we all talk our bravado of, isn't it all wonderful? But no, we have to be more truthful than that and face both sides of this moment, the darkness as well as the light. And then the fourth error is made by those who see all the three others, but they think that the end will be coming through some miraculous intervention from outside of ourselves. Whether it's an army of angels who will save us from ourselves, or it's an army of extraterrestrial saviors, or it's some other permutation of a religious belief. But no, it won't happen from outside. Doesn't mean there aren't angels, but we have to become those angels. Doesn't mean there aren't extraterrestrials, but it doesn't mean they'll save us either. We have to merit any help we get from within or from without. It is we who have lost touch with our goodness, our love, our God consciousness, and we who must reclaim it through our own surrender to God within, through our own renunciation of the lower chakra jouissance of the ego, and of playing the game of dishonesty with ourselves and pretense that things are better than they are, and the manana game of waiting for something to happen without my having to do it. But waiting for Godot is hopeless. And the time for waiting, the margin for error, is now at an end. And that is what this day signifies. It's not that this is the last day in time, but it is the last significant moment for us to make the commitment to our own transformation and to creating a new kind of community, a new kind of relationship with one another, not based on greed, not based on arrogance, not based on the hunger of the ego, not based on the foolhardiness of the ego's mind that sees only its own self-interest and not that of the whole. It's that must be renounced. It's the surrender to the realization that the welfare of one is the welfare of all. And that who we are is not limited to the body, it's not limited to this lifetime, it's not limited to any egoic nature. It's not limited to one ethnic group, one religious belief. It's not limited in any way. And any limitation of our love and of our identification is a denial of love to those who are left out of our concern. And that is the great sin. And so unless we reach a state of ultimate non-duality in which our love is universal, in which our realization is that we are all one with all beings of the cosmos, and that we are one with the source and creative power and intelligence and love that brought this cosmos into being. Without that surrender, the Renaissance, the new world cannot be born. And we must each take full responsibility for that birth. And so the death of the old world is the death of the ego, nothing less and nothing more. But the death of the ego must come as a voluntary renunciation of partial love and partial truth for the complete truth and the complete love of the Supreme Being that ultimately we are. And to see that beauty of beingness in everyone, without yielding to any deviation of turning beauty that is divine into desire for something physical, for possession of some form, or for anxiety and fear and the attempt to protect some form, but into the surrender to the formless, the eternal, the supreme power that needs no protection. And unless we come under that protection by realizing our oneness with that, we cannot pass through this time of trials and tribulations in which any other power will collapse. Every other power is disintegrating. Whether it's the power of money or even the ground under our feet. All of that is changing. The earth is changing. Life is changing. In order for us to realize that we are dependent on only one power, that one that we have forgotten, and that we have forgotten that we are.